world waited for what felt like forever. Then, we waited longer. But this February, we promise.
This is gonna be the gnarliest shit ever.
The wait is over.
Hello, I'm Johnny Knoxville. Welcome to Jackass.
If you're gonna be dumb, you gotta be tough. When you get knocked down, you gotta get back up.
If they trust us to go to the bathroom, they're less intelligent than I thought.
Life in the drawer, but I know enough to know. If you're gonna be dumb, you gotta be tough.
You're still blowing people up. As if life's not hard enough.
This guy's one badass dude right
Oh man, I'm on Jackass.
It's a Texas rat snake.
Venomous? Francis hits harder than any heavyweight in MMA. I told Aaron it was a lightweight.
That's not a lightweight. What are you guys talking about?
We're in this together, Pops.
What's the worst that could happen?
You said it wasn't gonna feel like anything.
I just need you to sit with my grandpa. Just make sure he doesn't smoke.
There ain't a bunch of NASA scientists writing this. Can I get a cold brew?
Yeah, of course.
Will you make him an actual coffee, Stephanie?
Here, I made you another one.
It's gotta be over, dude. I think we're all the way finished. We're through. Stick a fork in it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to an all-new episode of Palace Off the Top Rope. Thank you so much for joining me, ladies and gentlemen, and happy Super Bowl 56 week. A full Super Bowl preview show is coming from the SM Football Marks podcast that'll be dropping later in the week, so be on the lookout for that. But today is all about movies and jackasses, which I got to check out this past weekend. You'll get my full review of that. But let's talk about the recap of how Jackass Forever did at the box office. It's been a little bit of a dry spell, right, since Scream. I haven't really talked movies on here, and, the whole announcement of Tom Brady retiring and the NFL playoffs and Super Bowl, all that right now is in full gear and dominating everything. So it's actually kind of been good for me on the other end with movies not being so busy right now and stuff getting really spread out. But it's the start of February. Well, at least kind of. We're already on February 8th as I'm recording this. So we have new movies out this past weekend. It was Jackass Forever and Moonfall from director Roland Emmerich, and I'll talk about him in just a little bit. But Jackass Forever was the #1 movie in America, opening to $23 million. Now, a lot of people that I've talked to actually had higher expectations for this movie, probably around the $40-50 million range. But they were looking back to Jackass 3D, which released, a little over 10 years ago. And it was a whole different time. I know it's only been 10 years, but that's a lot with the way the business has changed so much with the addition of streaming and all that stuff. Everything has just changed so quickly. I wasn't expecting that for Jackass Forever. I actually predicted, I didn't get to talk about it on the pod, but I didn't really get to put it on social media. But talking with my coworkers at work, I was like, I can see this in the mid-20s, so I predicted 26, so I was off by 3 million. But still, I thought it was that was going to be a good enough mark for a movie like this, because we don't really have comedies anymore in the theaters as wide releases. If Jackass were made today, with a whole new cast, if they were redoing it, I don't think they would get a theatrical release. I think this would be released on, what is this, Paramount? So it would be on Paramount Plus, or maybe Netflix would grab the rights. A lot of comedies nowadays get directly put to streaming, and some of them get a chance sometimes theatrical wise. Later in the month we got a movie called The Lost City, but that's gonna have Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum and Brad Pitt, who I just saw in a trailer a couple of weeks ago for this movie. I hadn't seen the trailer. I'm like, okay, I'm totally in for this movie. Maybe a small part, but whatever. Still huge movie stars. But for the most part, like, comedies now don't get the opportunity to get that platform of a theatrical, distribution. I could look to last year, and it was a movie that should have gone on my top 10. Now that I think about it, like, I'm pissed at myself for not putting it on there. But that's the whole thing about streaming, right? It's that, out of sight, out of mind. Like, you watch it, you consume it real quick, and then you forget about it, even though you may have liked the property. Like, for example, I haven't talked about Cobra Kai anymore, and I thought it was completely amazing this past season, but that dropped right at the beginning of January, and then I forgot about it. So, I mean, it's crazy. Like, that's just the way streaming works now, where it's just content, and then we forget about it. We consume it, and then we move on. But a movie like that I wanted to talk about that was last year, and it was on Hulu. It was a movie called Vacation Friends with John Cena. A little bit of a smaller cast, not that well known, but John Cena was the most well known. But a movie like that, it was so freaking hilarious. It would have worked well in a movie theater with a huge crowd. So, movies like these are rare, like Jackass, like, it's got the nostalgia factor for it, and the fact that it's had 3 successful movies, plus, like, the longevity of the television show. Still, like, you can find clips online, and there's this Twitter account posting stuff recently from a bunch of stuff from, like, the Jackass TV show. Just reminds you of, like, how much of a one-hit, like, once-in-a-generation type show that is. And it still, like, works today. Like, it doesn't matter, like, how many years pass by. Like, pranking your friends and wacky stunts, like, that will never not be funny. Like, I found myself laughing throughout that entire thing. And people were like, was it funny when I came out of it? Like, it's a Jackass movie. Of course it's funny. Like, that stuff will never grow tired. I mean, I have a sick sense of humor, but for the most part, I think that stuff, like, you really shouldn't be shocked with. It's just, like, how far they're going to go with it. But in terms of, like, the laughter, it's always going to be there. I mean, that's just my opinion, but more on that in my review later. But yes, it was number 1 at the box office, $23 million. Not huge by today's standards, obviously. And I think even with or without the whole COVID situation going on, or the pandemic in general, I still don't think this movie was going to open huge. So, again, mid-20s was my benchmark for it, and that's what it hit. So, and there's still not going to be that much. There's a little bit more than what there was in January, but so it's still got some time to make money before the Batman arrives. So, yeah, I think it'll be, we'll talk about the releases coming up this weekend. It's Super Bowl weekend, and usually Super Bowl weekend is like a huge dead weekend because studios don't like to release anything, because by the time Sunday rolls around, like, theaters are a dead zone. I can tell you, like, you don't want, if you want to be by yourself in a movie theater, during a weekend, your best chance to go is like Super Sunday. Cause me being in the movie theater business for so long, it's always dead on that day. But then of course I haven't worked a lot of Super Sundays in a very long time because my boy Tom Brady used to watch a lot of them. So, and be in a lot of them. So I was never there. I was always at home. But yeah, just the history of the Super Bowl, it's always a dead weekend, but there's 3 studio releases this weekend. So it's going to be very interesting. And there's stuff appealing alternatively to people who are not into football. So could be an interesting weekend, although I still think it may not be enough to topple Jackass, possibly. I mean, not to say that Jackass is front loaded, but people want to laugh, so I think it might stick around. We're in a time right now where we could use a good laugh in our lives. Everything's so serious now, and everybody gets offended and this and that, and it's nice to revisit some old friends and just have a good old laugh while they're getting hurt. Like, that's a good recipe for success right there. Let's talk about Moonfall, the other movie that wasn't able to check out. I've had a lot of stuff going on, and I might catch it while I'm on vacation for the week, but I got other stuff planned, so maybe not. I was hyped for it a little bit, but then, like, as we got closer and closer to it, I just, like, kind of fizzled away from it. I was more focused on, man, I really want to see Jackass, and then my whole eyes are heading towards Batman now, which is less than a month away. But that movie flopped this weekend, and not good news for those that are looking for, like, those original blockbusters to break out. It was like $140 million budget, only made $10 million. Pretty bad. But Roland Emmerich right now is getting a lot of flack because he made some comments a couple of weeks ago. Just, again, we've seen this cycle from so many different directors that aren't into the superhero like genre of films. Just making, poking at it, saying like, movies like original blockbusters don't get made anymore and this and that. And it's like, well, you just had your opportunity to make one and didn't make money. First of all, there's not really huge movie stars in it. Halle Berry, Patrick Wilson. I mean, come on, guys. Like, if you have Brad Pitt in a movie like that, maybe it's going to do some money. Tom Cruise, Chris Pratt, whatever. Maybe even Chris Evans. But you didn't have a lot of star power. The concept was it's very wacky, very Armageddon type style. It's about the moon attacking Earth and you got to get a ragtag crew of people to go save the day. So it had that same kind of like premise behind it, but it just didn't hit with audiences. But I want to defend Roland Emmerich a little bit because, of course, the superhero like geeks and marks that are all about the comic book movies, like just automatically gave him flack for his comments. But he's kind of right. Like, and you can shit on his movies all you want. Like, go ahead, like criticize him all you want. And they made fun of him saying like, well, you make blockbusters or whatever. But yeah, but his movies were at least original concepts. They were trying to poke at him for Independence Day and all, 2012 and all that stuff. But those are like original blockbusters, right? Like, yeah, he finally made a sequel to Independence Day, but I haven't seen it and I don't really count it. But for the most part, he does a lot of original concepts, especially like in the disaster genre. So you look at Independence Day, you look at The Day After Tomorrow, you look at 2012. Even he took a crack at Godzilla, but like it wasn't like he did so many sequels to it or anything like that. He did one movie and that was that. So what he's saying is kind of true. Like we really don't get like the original blockbusters anymore. It's all sequels and reboots and I'm afraid for this generation because they're going to grow up thinking that the superhero movies are all that. And I think that's what he means by it. And let me explain because I always post about this on social media, especially my Facebook. But like every single time, and I'm only going on one channel, but there's plenty of channels that do it. But TNT, all they play on that freaking channel, it looks like all the time, is either Star Wars marathons or Marvel marathons. Now, me as a kid growing up in the 90s, I got to discover so many different movies of so many different genres. And I think that's kind of the reason why I kind of fell in love with all these different types of movies and not like one specific type. But I fear for these kids that are growing up and all they're seeing on TV is the Marvels and the Star Wars. And he's not saying that those movies shouldn't exist, or I think none of these directors are saying that. But the fact that they dominate so much that they're not leaving any room for anybody else to succeed. Like, I love the Batman like so much, but the fact that that's pretty much the only movie coming out in March and just everything else moved away, like there's nothing else to counter it. Like, I think originally the movie Ambulance, starring Jake Gyllenhaal, from director Michael Bay, like kind of like a heist meets speed type of movie, an original concept movie, I think was originally going to come out in March and it moved all the way to April, everyone's really avoiding the Batman. A lot of movies moved out of March. But I think that's what these directors are really getting at when they poke at these movies, is that they're not giving opportunities for other movies to succeed. And yeah, comic book geeks and marks want to pound their chest about Spider-Man is the reason why people are still going to the movies. Like, no, people were going to the movies still before that. It's just like, we're talking in droves. Like, but Spider-Man just dominated like so much, but not other stuff didn't get a chance to succeed or get the chance. Like, a lot of movies moved out of the way, and that's the way I think it's going to be when a lot of comic book movies comes out. There's going to be huge gaps before and afterwards because nobody wants to compete because, and I get it. It's a consumer product, right? That's what the people want. But then you can't complain when that's all there is. And then, you come to the movies like weeks after a comic book movies come out and be like, well, what else you got? Like, and that's happened to me at work where they'll come out and they're like, well, what's playing? We're like, well, there's nothing right now except Spider-Man. We're like, well, we already saw it. Well, that's what y'all want. That's what y'all come in droves to see week in and week out. Like, the other movies aren't going to have a chance. And I'm not saying all the other movies like don't have a chance. Like, there's exceptions to the rules. But for the most part, I think when the directors talk about that stuff, that's what they're hinting at. And again, I fear for these kids. They're going to grow up and all they see on the TV is the Marvel and the Star Wars and the comic book movies. And they're going to be like, there's such thing as comedy movies, or they're going to think all comedy comes from comic book movies and all drama comes from comic book movies, and, you know, great storytelling comes from comic book movies. Like, no, there's a lot of different stuff out there. And, you know, that's why I appreciate movie channels like, you know, Turner Classic Movies and IFC that play different things. Even AMC to an extent, I'll still give them credit for playing different kinds of movies. You know, they'll play a comic book movie here and there, but, you know, it's great to turn to those channels and still see, like, you know, The Green Mile playing, or The Breakfast Club, or whatever. Just all these different types of movies. But if you look at the main channels, the TNTs, the TBSs, the Sci-Fi USA channels, anything Disney related, it's all comic book and Star Wars. Like, am I supposed to be shocked when TNT runs a promo that says Star Wars marathon all weekend long? Like, that's all you freaking play. How am I supposed to, like, learn about other movies when that's all you play? That's redundant and boring. But whatever, that's me trying to defend Roland Emmerich. He made the comments also, so he has to live with that. I don't think that's the reason that movie bombed, but either way, I wish it would have succeeded, just because it would just give studios the, you know, give them like this idea like, okay, cool, these movies can still work. But I think also you have to get the right elements together, the right cast, and, you know, Moonfall, as big of a concept of an idea that it is, and you look at it, it's very CGI filled also, you know, it can't really say that it's like not how other movies are made. Like, that's what the way comic book movies are the same thing, right? A bunch of CGI, so can't really like excuse this one. It's kind of the same type of movie, but just not comic book related. But again, if it had a better cast, I think it would have a shot. But it is what it is. 10 million bombed. It's going to fizzle away quickly. We got new movies coming out this weekend. The 3 that are coming out are Death on the Nile, which is a sequel to Murder on the Orient Express from director Kenneth Branagh. It's got like a pretty good cast with Gal Gadot and all these different actors are in it. And the first movie did pretty well at the box office. I remember it being number 1, and it was kind of a surprise. Couple of years have passed since then. There's been a couple of backlash on the film, especially because of one of the certain actors that's in the movie, Armie Hammer, and he's been in some headlines recently. If you want to read what's going on with him, just Google his name, you'll find out. So there's that hanging over it. So will it be enough to topple Jackass? Maybe, only because of the Super Bowl crowd. Like, this movie, I think, kind of caters more to the female audience, who, for those that, you know, I think people really underestimate the female audience going to the movie theaters. They're a big reason. Like, I look and I study a lot of people that come into the movies, and not just on the weekend, but like during the week. Like, where are we getting our business from mostly? And not that I have like the right data, and I'm not saying like, oh yeah, this is the exact reason, but I do see a lot of women during the weekdays coming to check out movies, so they're a huge part of it. So that may be a number 1 this weekend. The other movie that I would give the opportunity to take number 1, and only also because it's Valentine's Day weekend, is the new film Marry Me with Jennifer Lopez and Owen Wilson, which is like a rom-com / drama. But that one's also going to be streaming on the same day. You can watch it on Peacock. And for those of you, Peacock is probably the cheapest streaming service you can get. You can get it for $5 and you watch the movie. That's how I'm still able to get away with watching WWE pay-per-views here and there, because like, oh, it's on, whatever, $5, like, it's nothing. You know, you used to pay like $70 for pay-per-view, now it's nothing. So that may be a reason why that movie may not be number 1. There may be couples staying in for the weekend, or even on Valentine's Day, which lands on a Monday. You know, they'll pick that as a date movie, but to watch at home. But I still think a nice dinner and a movie type date. I'm an old school guy, so I think that still works for me. Hopefully it still works for a lot of people, and they go check out that movie this weekend. It's a rom-com, which is also kind of a dying thing, which is what you usually see on Netflix these days, but it's nice to see that one get a shot at the big screen. It's Jennifer Lopez. It's kind of like she's good at these, so that's why it still gets an opportunity. But, you know, the streaming thing kind of hurts it a little bit, so we'll see how much it racks in this weekend. And then the other movie is Blacklight, another Liam Neeson, another Taken type movie. Saw the poster for it this week. I hadn't really looked at it. I was doing some marketing stuff at work, and I saw the poster for it. And the tagline is, "You're gonna need more men." It's like, oh, same thing. Like, just plaster Liam Neeson's mug on the poster, and that's what it is. And usually his movies do well. Even during the pandemic, he had like a couple come out, maybe one or two. And people come out and still see them. So, you know, you gotta strike while the iron's hot. I'm shocked people haven't gotten sick of it, but, you know, that's another alternative. But that's more action driven. Guys are going to be glued to the NFL this weekend with the Super Bowl. So, I don't give that a good chance at being number one. So I think it's either going to be Death on the Nile or Marry Me. But probably Death on the Nile just on the fact that that's a theater exclusive. You know, you can't see it anywhere else. Marry Me, again, if it didn't have that streaming thing, I'd give it a chance. But it's still J-Lo, so she's the biggest star out of all of them coming out this weekend. So, and it's Valentine's Day weekend, so I'm pulling for that one because I want the rom-coms to win. But we'll see what happens. Either way, numbers-wise, it's not going to be too crazy, so you're not going to get a prediction from me here. You know, it's Super Bowl weekend. It's, we'll see. But speaking of box office projections, the first projections came out for The Batman, which opens in less than a month. And they pulled out the box office projections for it. And this is coming from boxofficepro.com. You won't get my prediction until the week before. So, right now it's projected at, and again, this is, you know, I guess his website pulls from, like, you know, what they're hearing from studios and, you know, their research and all that stuff. Right now it's projected to make between $135 million and $185 million opening weekend. That's 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I think that's a good projection. Again, if this had opened in December like Spider-Man did, it would have the opportunity to, I don't know if it would make as much as Spider-Man. I think Spider-Man's more family friendly, and of course it's got the Marvel brand behind it that's so successful. That, and plus all the buzz about what was going on, right? Like, are the old Spider-Man going to come back or whatever? So it had a lot of stuff like building up to it. Like, it was a powder keg ready to explode, and it ended up becoming one of the biggest box office hits ever. I don't see that for the Batman, only because, and even though this is the first solo Batman movie since 2012's The Dark Knight Rises, you know, yes, there's Batman v Superman and Justice League and Zack Snyder's Justice League and the Lego Batman movie. Like, we've had iterations of Batman on screen, but as far as like a solo Batman movie, this is the first one in a decade. That's crazy to think. This is the 10-year anniversary of The Dark Knight Rises. Will I do a pod on that? Who knows? Stay tuned. But, yeah, that's why the projection is this low. It would be the biggest open. If it tops out at $185 million like they project here as early projections, it would be the biggest Batman opening ever. The Dark Knight was 150, and then I think like The Dark Knight Rises did like 160. So it would be the biggest Batman movie ever. I still think it may do a little higher, only because by the time this movie comes out, people will really have a craving for, like, we haven't had anything in a while. And let's talk about the rest of February before we get to that. So we have this weekend, right? The 3 movies that I listed. Then the week after that, it's Uncharted, a Tom Holland, Mark Wahlberg, like, buddy comedy, Indiana Jones, video game, adventure movie. Video game movies, like, for the most part, are never good. But Tom Holland is coming off Spider-Man, one of the biggest movies ever. And it's coming not that far after that movie, so it may have a chance to do some, like, really good business. And then you have the Channing Tatum movie, Dog, which, I mean, you know, everybody loves dogs, right? So that may do a little something, but not enough to put a dent in the box office. And then there's that Lost City movie, which I mentioned with Sandra Bullock, another Channing Tatum movie, and then Brad Pitt, like, just randomly pops up. Again, the movie's not going to really move the needle, but it could bring in some decent business depending on where you're at around the nation. You know, there's certain movies that do work well at certain theaters and others just don't work at all. So there will be a clamoring for a huge group of people to come out and see. And, you know, despite Marvel's success and everything around it, I still think, in terms of pop culture, there is no bigger icon than Batman as far as, like, comic books are concerned. Like, he's a for sure box office attraction. So, a solo Batman movie after 10 years, and the buzz around it has been really good. The marketing has been tremendous. The trailers, the posters, the tie-ins with, like, you know, Little Caesars and all this stuff. It's all great stuff. Like, Little Caesars right now has a pizza out that's in the shape of the Bat logo. So they're going all out. I like this. This is what I miss about a good Batman movie. Nobody does marketing like a Batman movie. Even the Dark Knight trilogy, for as like gritty and grounded as it was, they had a lot of tie-ins with like Mountain Dew and all these different things. So it's got all of that going for it. So you got to factor all of that in also. You know, the toys and everything. Like, everything has been great for this movie. I even picked up all of my Funko Pops that I wanted out of this movie, and everything looks awesome. So that's stuff to factor in. So this movie could open a little bit higher than expected. Again, you won't get my projection until maybe either the week before or the week of. I'll do a pod for sure leading up to it. But those are the early projections for it. I just wanted to put that out there as we head towards March 4th, which is when this movie opens. With that being said, in terms of demand and how popular is this going to be? So it was announced yesterday online, stuff started popping up that there was going to be a special fan event screening, which is going to be on March 1st, which will be a couple of days before the actual, you know, public showing where everybody can go see it. It'll be a one-time showing in IMAX, and it's going to be on March 1st. So I tried to buy tickets for it this morning. That thing sold out within seconds. Like, holy crap. So that's another thing to factor. Like, do people care? Like, it's just another... We've had Batman for, like, a couple of years now, and, you know, for the last decade and a half, he's been on the screens. Are people going to care? That's a good indicator, folks. Like, that thing sold out almost immediately. I don't know how it's done around the nation, but here in my city and the one theater we're going to show it at, it sold out completely. And it's not in a small auditorium. It's in our friggin' IMAX. It's got a lot of seats in there, and it sold out almost instantly. So, yes, people are hyped for it. It's going to be big. The question is, how big? That's the only thing that's left to ponder, is how big is this movie going to be? And lastly, before we take a break here and I talk about Jackass Forever, my review, the Academy Award nominations were announced today, and to my disappointment, there was no nominations for freaking The Last Duel in any category. Maybe something, but I didn't see anything. Not in the ones that I wanted. Like, no Jodie Comer for Best Actress, no Ben Affleck for Best Supporting Actor, no Best Picture nomination. This was one of the best movies of the year. It's available on HBO Max now if you haven't seen it. Like, that already put me in a sour mood. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the Best Picture nominees, and there's been the Oscars last year were pretty bad. Like, the ratings were bad, the nominees were bad, but also it's like we were still like in the middle of COVID, so a lot of stuff got either delayed or, you know, a lot of stuff came from streaming, and, you know, it depends on what you're subscribed to. Did you even have a chance to see it? So here are the nominees this year. And again, 2021, we kind of got back a little bit to normal, but still, it looks like streaming for the most part dominated the Best Picture field. So here are the nominees. So you got Belfast, which never hit our theater where I'm at, so never heard of that. I mean, I know who's in it, but, you know, never saw any marketing for it, so I can't really tell you what it's about. Movie called Coda. Don't know about that. That's also, I think, streaming. Don't Look Up from director Adam McKay. Starred Leo DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence, Jonah Hill, Meryl Streep, all these different actors in it. I liked the movie, but I didn't think it was like super, super strong. I still think Adam McKay has done other great stuff. I thought Vice was a way better movie, but it's nominated this year, so I'm at least familiar with what that was. I saw it in theaters, but this was more geared towards Netflix, so there's that. Drive My Car, never heard of it. Dune, which I still haven't seen, a 3-hour movie that I just didn't have time to sit through in a theater. Maybe when it hits HBO Max again, I'll check it out. It looked awesome. You know, it's Denis Villeneuve. He's a good director. Amazing stuff that he does. So I don't doubt that this is probably good, but there was just nothing about it that really stuck out for me. I think I saw this movie either in high school, like the original, not the original, but the David Lynch version. Or I think that was a remake. I don't know. There's been so many different versions of this. Maybe it was a book first. I don't know. I don't know the history of Dune, so don't come after me. But again, this one didn't really sell it for me. The cast is great, but Timothée Chalamet, still not sold on him. But he was actually better in Don't Look Up. That was actually, I wasn't annoyed with him in that movie, but he was like a little supporting character, so maybe that's why. King Richard with Will Smith, didn't get a chance to see that either. Although I heard Will Smith was incredible in it, so I'll probably get a chance to check that out soon. Either on HBO Max or maybe they'll bring it back to one of our theaters. Maybe it is playing there already, I don't know. This one I do want to see, the next one. Licorice Pizza from Paul Thomas Anderson. I think that's at one of our theaters right now, so I definitely do want to see that one. Heard a lot of great things about that, excuse me, folks. So, yeah, I'm going to check that one out. Nightmare Alley was actually a surprise to a lot of people from director Guillermo del Toro. He won for The Shape of Water, so not a shock that he's back, but actually this movie kind of heard like mixed on it, and they released like a black and white version. They brought that one back, so now that it's back in our theaters, maybe I'll get a chance to see it. I do like the cast: Bradley Cooper, Cate Blanchett, I think Rooney Mara's in this also. Probably not. I probably won't see it. The Power of the Dog, another Netflix movie. That one I think won the Golden Globe for Best Drama. So it's got some buzz. Will it be the winner or the front runner this year? I don't know. That's the thing is, like, I'm reading these movies and I don't know any of them that would be a front runner. You know, in any other world, like a Leonardo DiCaprio led movie, like, should be the front runner, but I don't know. This is just, it's weird. It's a weird time. And again, we're still not fully back to normal, so a lot of these movies, I don't know in any other year that they would get the chance, but, you know, again, we're just in a new world now with streaming, and they're going to have the chance now. The last one is Steven Spielberg's West Side Story, which, again, I'm hit or miss with musicals, but I heard this one was really good. So I'm not shocked that it's nominated. The Academy loves Steven Spielberg, and I think he's also nominated for Best Director, so there's a huge snub in here, I think, that was a lot of people thought was a lock, including myself. We can talk about that a little bit. And that's Lady Gaga for House of Gucci, which she went like full on method for that, even to the point where I think she was still in character up until like the premiere of the movie. So a lot of fans are upset about that. I thought she was a lock, but you know, I'm not like mad about it either. I'm mad about Affleck. That's a travesty. And they nominated him for a Razzie for that. Like, fuck them for that. That was a great performance. And anybody that says or agrees with it didn't see the movie, I guarantee you. But here are the nominees for Best Actress. Jessica Chastain in The Eyes of Tammy Faye. Didn't see that, but looked like she dived deep into that role. It's another movie with Andrew Garfield. I would probably got to check that one out. Olivia Colman, who's almost like kind of like a de facto Meryl Streep. She's always nominated in a movie called The Lost Daughter. Hadn't heard about that. Penelope Cruz for Parallel Mothers. Haven't heard of that movie. Nicole Kidman was one I predicted for Being the Ricardos. Like, that's a good one. I think she should win. She was great as Lucille Ball in Aaron Sorkin's movie. If you haven't had the chance, folks, it's on Amazon Prime. That was like my second movie of the year for my top 10. And then Kristen Stewart playing Lady Diana in Spencer. That one just hit Hulu. So I'm going to try to catch that one because I do like Kristen Stewart. I like the second half of her career that she's been having post-Twilight. She's diving into different things, so got to give her that. The same thing for like Robert Pattinson. Like, where are you at? Who's the other guy? Jacob from Twilight. Like, when's he going to get started? Maybe he's just not a good actor. But Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson are doing stuff, so if you want to laugh off her nomination, like, you think she's a joke, look, she's nominated for Best Actress, so good for her. As far as Best Actor, there's a good list here. Javier Bardem for Being the Ricardos. Again, he was great as Desi Arnaz in Being the Ricardos. Awesome. Benedict Cumberbatch in The Power of the Dog. Big name. Haven't seen it, but Benedict Cumberbatch is usually pretty good in everything. Andrew Garfield in Tick, Tick, Boom. That one I heard, that's a really good performance. That one's on Netflix, so may get to that one. Will Smith for King Richard. Is this the year Will Smith wins Best Actor? He's been nominated before. And I think looking at the field, and the last one is Denzel Washington, The Tragedy of Macbeth. You know, Denzel is always great, but he has Oscars. It would be great to see Will Smith get it here, but don't be shocked if like Andrew Garfield or Benedict Cumberbatch end up taking it. Javier Bardem has an Oscar already too, so that's why I don't put him as a front runner. So Benedict or Andrew are probably the locks, but Will Smith is the story, right? But we'll see. Best Supporting Actress is alright. Best Supporting Actor, that's where I think Affleck should have been, but whatever. The best one I see here on this list is J.K. Simmons, was also being the Ricardos. The other stuff I haven't really seen too. Again, Belfast, Coda, and The Power of the Dog. Like these movies, I don't know if I'm ever going to get to them. Like, not that I don't care, but you know, I'm very picky with my stuff now. Unless it's like something like Licorice Pizza, which I heard so many great things on Film Twitter about. I'm going to check that one out. But just again, a lot of those same movies for these nominees, and I don't want to go through all of them, but just wanted to talk about like how just different these nominees have been like in the last couple of years with streaming coming to the forefront. And you know, a lot of like, what are these movies? Never even heard of them. Like, is that going to be like the consensus like for the next couple of years going forward? And again, out of sight, out of mind. Like, there's some stuff on Netflix. You know, I got it back for Cobra Kai, and I was going through, hadn't had Netflix in forever, and I was like, oh, this exists? Like, what is this? Like, I feel like it's just content, and it's just stored, especially if it's on a streaming platform. Which is why I think the theatrical experience is important. You know, it gets that attention. It gets the marketing on TV and in sporting events and all that. You see the commercials for all that. I think it's very important. Like, did I ever see anything for Coda? Like, no, like, I don't know what the hell that is. Like, and I pride myself on being a film guy, but there's some stuff I'll admit that I don't know what it is. This is one of those movies. That one, freaking, what's the other one? The Power of the Dog. Like, I know who's in it, but I don't know what the hell the movie's about. Maybe I got to be a better film fan. Or maybe I'm very picky with what I see now. But damn it, The Last Duel didn't get nominated. Such a shame. But those are the nominees, folks. I mean, either you're excited about it or you're not. Will I watch the Oscars? Probably not. Because I don't see anything here worth like cheering for. Other than Nicole Kidman or Kristen Stewart winning Best Actress. Will Smith, if that story comes to fruition for him. But other than that, there's not really much. That's the Oscars, folks. Whatever. It is what it is. There's still no host. We'll see what happens with that. I don't think I'm going to do like a preview show on it or anything. None of it sounds appetizing at all. But let's take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about Jackass Forever and my experience in the movie theater for this. Stick around. This is Palace Off the Top Rope. We'll be right back.
We're here to tell you the story of our new movie, Marry Me, in just 60 seconds. Ready?
Okay.
It starts when two megastars plan to get married on stage while performing their new hit song, Marry Me, to millions around the world.
This is the biggest wedding in the world. Meanwhile, Charlie Gilbert, a math teaching single dad.
How great is this? Going to the same school together?
Gets dragged to the big concert by his best friend, Parker.
Come to the concert with me tonight.
Just when we're about to tie the knot, the whole world finds out.
What's everybody looking at?
That's just caught cheating with her assistant. So she does what any sane woman would do. She picks some fan from the crowd.
And I marry him instead.
Do you, some guy, take Kat to be your lawfully wedded wife?
Okay.
Then I totally lose it.
Who the hell do you think you are, man? Some fan? No, I'm not a fan. Well, I mean, I am now.
Did you get a good look at him? He's cute.
What?
I'm not actually going to stay married to a stranger, am I?
I think you're amazing.
Surprisingly, the longer we're together, the more we realize we might be perfect for one another.
But then, guess who shows up? He got nominated at the Grammys.
What?
And it looks like we're back together.
But are we?
Yeah, no?
To find out, watch Marry Me, coming soon to theaters. Did we make it in 60 seconds?
Close enough.
Welcome back to the show, and once again, Marry Me, starring Jennifer Lopez and Owen Wilson, in theaters this Friday, but also streaming on Peacock. But go see it at the theaters. This weekend for Valentine's Day, I think it's a great date movie, rom-coms. Let's make that thing again. Let's make it a thing again, guys. Let's not just let be a dying thing where we only see them on Netflix and Hulu and wherever. God, J-Lo, she's been so good at these movies for so long. Actually, they had a marathon of these like not too long ago, and we actually saw them on TV. And man, look, they're fine movies. Like, again, I'm not always looking for the greatest movie or the greatest acting or the greatest script. You know, sometimes movies can just be wacky and fun, and usually rom-coms with their ridiculous premises like this one, you know, her marrying a stranger in the audience and that stranger happening to be, of course, Owen Wilson. That guy, how does he always get those? I want to know who his agent is, how he always lands these leading man who gets the girl, you know, you think Wedding Crashers, anything like that. How does it end up beating that guy? No offense to him. Owen Wilson's great, but I mean, come on. I don't know. But still looking forward to it. I'm going to watch. Anyways, now to my movie of the week, Jackass Forever, which I got to see in a full jam-packed auditorium. Everybody laughing their asses off and having a great time. Not that much to say as far as like a plot. There's not really a plot with these movies. It's just a bunch of skits strung together, but they all flow evenly. I love all the Jackass movies. I can't say I'm like the biggest diehard where I know exactly who everybody is, but I know Johnny Knoxville. I know Wee Man. I know Steve-O. The one person absent from this chapter is Bam Margera, but I know he's gone through some stuff personally, and I know he has a couple of things against the Jackass crew right now as far as like him not being involved. But this is not as big of a deal of him not being in it as like other movies, like where you lose like a pivotal character and it doesn't feel the same. Jackass Forever doesn't lose a step. The only thing that's different now is that they're just very older now. Like Johnny Knoxville has gray hair in this, even though there's some parts in the movie, in some of the skits where his hair's colored, like if he's still young, but that to me was kind of weird, but I don't know if it was just for some of the skits they were doing or bits or whatever. But yeah, that's the only thing that's different is that these guys are older now, and of course they can't do this forever, even though the title's Forever in the movie. But it was a great, nostalgic, like warm feeling. And the thing that's great about the Jackass movies is that it's not so much about like the extreme stunts, even though they're hilarious as hell. To me, what's great about Jackass is the camaraderie and the closeness that these guys have as friends and bros, and you know, the fact that they can do these kinds of things and not like be petty or, you know, mad or anything like that. Like, yeah, some of this stuff does go overboard. They're like, oh, cut it out. But it's all in the fun spirit of being, it's a celebration of friendship and just camaraderie. And that's, I think, what's great about it. And that's why I think it's great to see this in a theater full of everybody that kind of like, I think they're really wanting the same thing because everybody's just having a great time. I didn't see anybody like hear anybody like too grossed out by anything. It was just a lot of like, oh my God, and just people just laughing uncontrollably. And there is some stuff in this movie where it's like, whoa, like I can't believe they did that. But that's just, it's what you expect in a movie like this. There were some people that were coming out like refunding their tickets, like I didn't pay to see, you know, a man's genitalia or whatever. It's like, have you ever seen a fucking Jackass movie or skit? Like it's through all of these movies, and it's not even about that. It's just like the fact of the absurdity and the silliness of it. Like the fact that like, oh, you saw like a penis or whatever, like that just offended you in the worst way. Like, calm down, like get over yourself. That's what these movies are. It's a bunch of friends being silly and doing wacky shit together and having a great time and not taking themselves too seriously in a world where everybody is just too serious these days. So I think Jackass Forever, while originally I think was supposed to come out in October, I think it's coming out at a good time now where, you know, the beginning of the year, we're still in this pandemic and, you know, other stuff going on in the world here in South Texas, dealing with like cold fronts and ice storms or whatever. You know, a good movie like this, a funny movie that just brings a lot of memories and just brings a lot of camaraderie together. So if you got your buddies out there, and even if you're not a fan of the Jackass or don't even know what it is, a lot of the younger generation don't know the Jackass history, go check it out. It's freaking hilarious. You're telling me somebody like getting electrocuted or, getting caught chained to a chair while a bear is on the verge of attacking you. You're telling me that's not funny to you? I mean, come on, like, have a sense of humor, lighten up. That's the great thing about this movie, is that it tells you to just lighten the hell up and don't take life so seriously and just enjoy your friends and life and just have fun. So that's my review of it. I recommend it. Some of the stuff is a little, there's some stuff that is squeamish, so if you're sensitive to that, and not that so much that you're offended by it, but that you're squeamish to it, okay, cool, maybe this isn't the movie for you. But other than that, if you can stomach all that and just sit back and enjoy these guys being idiots, then it's great. And again, I do really think it's the last one. I mean, some of these stunts that these guys do, especially Johnny Knoxville, like there's a scene in the movie where I think he did this in the second or the third movie, I forgot, where he gets like flipped over by a bull, like just straight up, like the bull like just horns him and like flips him up, like spins him like 360 like twice. He does it in this one. He gets like severely hurt, but because he's older now. Like, how much longer can he do this? Like, yeah, he's been like quote unquote a professional for like so many years, but even at your age, like, father time catches up to you. So in the first movie, I think like he survived it like nothing, but in this one, like, he gets flipped over by the bull again, and like he gets knocked out completely. He has to get stretchered out, and then he has fractured ribs and concussion and all that stuff. So, I just fear for them on that end. Like, hopefully this was like a last ride thing, last dance, and just only because they're older and you want to see them, like, I'm sure they're going to have lasting effects from all the stuff that they've done throughout the years as they grow older, but I think they should pass it on. And there's a lot of new characters that are introduced in this movie, and they can carry on, but you can do that again as a series, but as a movie, like, they wrapped it up pretty perfectly here, and they paid tribute to Ryan Dunn, who was a prominent cast member throughout the other movies in the series, and they do nice little tributes to him in that. So there's cool, fun little cameos here, and then, yeah, man, it's just, again, it's not really like a story-driven movie. It's just a bunch of skits put together for an hour and a half, and it's great escapism. And again, it's not overly long, too, so you can go escape for that long and not be like, oh my God, when is this thing going to be over? It's like, you're in and out of every skit before you know it, and then the movie's done. It's like, cool. Like, that was fun. Like, doesn't have to be the epic thing in the world, or it's not the worst thing in the world. It's just a movie, and it's fun, it's hilarious, and you'll have a great time. Jackass Forever in theaters now, was number one at the box office, $23 million. Good enough for the number one spot. And we'll see if it holds on this Super Bowl weekend. And let's take one final break. When we come back, I'm going to talk a little bit of wrestling, and then we'll wrap things up. This is Palace Off the Top Rope. We'll be right back.
The crime is murder. The murderer is one of you.
Were you aware of any grudges?
Madame gets what she wants.
I don't feel safe here.
Bang.
You murderer! I will deliver your killer.
Death on the Nile, rated PG-13.
Welcome back, and Death on the Nile is another movie coming out this weekend, which I think is very slightly the front runner to be number one at the box office this weekend. We'll see if it can dethrone Jackass Forever. But that one also will be a theater exclusive, so it's got a better chance. Anyways, let's talk a little bit of wrestling. Haven't really so much. There's stuff going on, of course, where... First, let me talk about WWE. So, I had quietly retired from WWE, like, a little bit after Survivor Series, which is it was in November. I was excited for Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair, which they had a little bit of a real beef going into their matchup. So that, like, got me, like, super excited for that. But other than that, like, there's no desire on anything. Like, everything's just so bland. The shows don't mean nothing. It's the same matches week in and week out. So I quietly retired. I was like, done with this. I don't need it. I'm getting everything I want out of AEW, and I'll talk about them in just a bit. They're delivering every single week for me. But as we headed closer to Royal Rumble season, and specifically like a couple days or maybe a week before, it was announced that Ronda Rousey was in talks to return. And not only return, but she was going to have a match with Becky Lynch at WrestleMania. So that got me like, it got me Godfather Part 3, like, just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. So, watched the Royal Rumble, and, you know, I wasn't going to, but my daughters were excited because the Bella twins were going to return, and a lot of the old, like, female stars from the past were going to come back, and she's familiar with them, so she wanted to watch because of that. But we ended up watching the whole event, and Ronda Rousey comes out, returns. That was a big pop moment for us. She wins the thing, so it's like, oh, sweet, she's going to fight Becky Lynch. But now it turns out she's going to fight Charlotte Flair, and it's like, been there, done that. I saw that match at Survivor Series. But people are like, going to come at me and say like, well, she already fought Becky Lynch too at WrestleMania. Yeah, but that was part of a three-way. The whole thing, what got me excited in the first place was back when Becky Lynch was really ascending, like, she was on a collision course with Ronda Rousey. That was originally supposed to be the matchup for Survivor Series in 2000, I believe, 18? But it never happened because Becky Lynch got concussed and messed up, so we never got it. We got it teased on the road to that WrestleMania with 35 in their face-off after Becky Lynch won the Royal Rumble and teased that she was going after, or not teased, but declared that she was going after Ronda Rousey. But we never got it because Charlotte Flair got in. And don't get me wrong, like, Charlotte Flair is a great athlete, like, she's a good superstar, but she just doesn't do it for me. Like, I think her character is very bland, and then when she does do her heel stuff, like, there's nothing interesting about it. It's all the same thing. I was interested in Becky versus Ronda because that was like Rock Austin type level heat it was getting in terms of like, oh man, this is epic. The stare down and everything was great. So I was hoping we were going to get that for this year's WrestleMania. That was what was reported originally by Dave Meltzer. But then I didn't read the follow-up saying like that's not really who he meant. It was supposed to be Charlotte Flair all along, so it's not that they switched plans. Like, the whole thing was Rousey was going to return and then go challenge Charlotte Flair at this year's WrestleMania, and then probably next year's WrestleMania, which is going to be in Los Angeles at SoFi Stadium, I think. They want to do the Becky-Ronda match there. I'm like, bummer, man. Like, anything can happen on the road from this year's WrestleMania until next. Like, who knows? Maybe Ronda will, you know, burn out again and leave again. Who knows? Like, I don't even think she was that, you know, that excited to come back in the first place. If this stuff that I'm reading off of the people that I follow is correct. So who knows? So why not just try to do the big money match now? Even though Becky Lynch is a heel right now, and I think she would work better as a babyface against a very just deadly Ronda Rousey, and I'm talking like a no-nonsense, like the way Bryan Danielson has been portrayed on All Elite Wrestling. Like, do that, just no-nonsense, just whoops your ass, and that's that. Like, that's the best way for Ronda Rousey to play her character in WWE, not trying to be the good old babyface, because we saw how that went sour the first time. And I think they're going to try it again this go around with Charlotte Flair. Like, they're going to try to portray her as the babyface, and it may go sour quickly again. So, I mean, what are we doing? And on top of that, the other stuff is just whatever. So maybe I might part-time coast to Mania just to see what Becky and Rousey do. Maybe if there's any more interactions between them before Mania, or any teases for them possibly doing something in the future. That's about all I'm invested in right now, because everything else is just pure shit. I don't care. Even in the Raws that I've been watching again, when it was announced that Rousey was coming back, like, I watch it and there's just nothing. It's just background noise to me. So I'm out of retirement for now, but I'm not like back fully in it, like invested. My investment, pro wrestling wise, isn't All Elite Wrestling, especially since they got back CM Punk and Bryan Danielson, and they're just doing incredible, amazing work. They're the reason that company is thriving right now, because they're working with the younger talent. They're elevating them. On top of like everything else they're doing, they're putting on more interesting shows and fresh matchups every week. couple of rematches here and there, but not to the point of death like WWE does it. Like, to the point where matchups just don't seem fresh anymore. Like, again, they're going with Rousey versus Charlotte, which we've seen already on pay-per-view. We haven't seen Becky and Ronda one-on-one. That's the match everybody wants to see. But whatever. AEW last week had the first matchup between CM Punk and MJF, Maxwell Jacob Friedman. In a feud that has been building since, I want to say, mid-November, and they barely delivered on that match right at the start of February. Like, they actually let this thing breathe for a bit until they actually had a match. And was it worth the wait? All that hype, you know, these guys talk a great game. They're promoting off each other. They're doing all this incredible mic work. And it's must see. Like, if you want to see like the first interaction between them doing mic work, just YouTube it. They have like the whole segment there. AEW has it up on their page on YouTube. It's like a full, almost like half an hour promo between just the two of them going at each other. Like, that's what we had been waiting for, something like that. Like, when CM Punk came back, I was like, oh man, I cannot wait till he interacts with someone like MJF, because you're only as good as your villain, right? The hero's only as good as the villain, and if you have somebody that matches you up on that level, like that's the way Rock was to Stone Cold at the beginning before The Rock got super popular and turned into a good guy as well. But he was like on an even level as a villain to Austin's like babyface champion. So I'm like, who's going to match up to CM Punk, the biggest star right now, I think, in all of wrestling? You know, it goes without saying. Like, I think he's still the most popular wrestler in all of pro wrestling. And I'm like, who's going to match him on the mic, toe to toe, and not like give a shit and go blow for blow? And that's MJF. And we've gotten all that in the lead up. It's been incredible. It's like, I want to see these guys interact in some form or fashion. That's fine. We can wait on the match. The match will be what it is. But the promos have got to deliver, the character work's got to be there, and they've delivered on everything 100%. So now we finally had the match last week. And did I think it was going to be like an all-star matchup? Like, no. Like, I mean, MJF is a good wrestler. He's really good. But it's like, it's not really what I'm invested in him for the most part, because he's the whole package. Like, I think a wrestler has to have the whole package. You got to wrestle, you got to talk, and you got to have a character. And MJF has all that, just like Britt Baker. She has all three. Like, am I so invested in her because of her wrestling? No, it's just a part of her whole core, because she has the trifecta. She has all of it, the character, the mic work. Like, she has everything. So the wrestling is just a part of it. But she's a good wrestler too. And same thing for MJF. And CM Punk, a little bit older now. His matches have been way different than what everybody else in AEW is doing, like high flying, fast pace, everybody kicking out of each other's moves, not really so much selling. CM Punk has been doing a lot of old school wrestling, kind of like looking up to guys like Bret Hart. Like, he's been doing a lot of homages to him, and in the best way possible. He's doing the selling. He's working slower paced matchups, doing more storytelling, working on a body part, selling on a body part if he gets hurt. So I'm like, how's this going to match up with MJF? And they told this just amazing story. The match went for like 40 minutes on television. Like, I think it was like at the start of the 8 o'clock hours, like MJF came out. I was like, whoa, they're actually first I didn't think they were going to go through fully with the match. I thought they were going to save it for a pay-per-view. But it's like they've been building it, and AEW's pretty good at paying off and delivering. So I'm like, okay, the match has to happen, right? They've been putting too much advertising into it. So, but MJF comes out at the 8 o'clock hour. I'm like, whoa, these guys are going to actually have time. Like, this is freaking awesome. It's not just going to be like a 10, 15 minute main event. And they go at it 40 plus minutes. It's slow, but not like a bad slow. It's just something that built, like the match totally ascended throughout. And there was great amounts of selling by CM Punk, selling for MJF, MJF reacting to stuff that Punk did to him. It was just a very old school type of matchup, the way I like my wrestling. Do I enjoy the new stuff, the high flying, the Adam Cole, like the fast pace, outmaneuvering each other, counter move, attempted near fall, like that style? Like, I'm cool with it, but I also like the methodical Bret Hart style type matchups where they're just telling you a story. And even, I was scared that the audience wasn't going to be involved in this because they're so used to and spoiled by all the fast-paced stuff that we're used to these days. But man, this match even got a "this is awesome," and it was deserving of it. It wasn't one of those like pandered like chant just to chant it. Like it earned it throughout. Like at the beginning, like the crowd was into it, but were they going to feel this matchup? And once everything started going back and forth, and once it started to really pick up, it got a "this is awesome" chant, and I was like, oh, thank you, because the wrestling's like a whole package, right? So like wrestlers can have like a great match, but if the audience doesn't respond to it, like then it sucks. Like that's part of the ordeal. That's why I think wrestling is one of the hardest like parts of. It's one of the hardest things in entertainment, because if it doesn't fulfill like as a package, then the whole thing's a failure. Like everything has to hit, and everything hit for this match. And MJF actually got the pinfall over CM Punk. Cheated to do it, but he got the pinfall nonetheless in CM Punk's hometown of Chicago. So that's interesting and awesome of Punk to put over a young talent like that, like MJF, who not only was elevated, but was like legitimized like as a huge main event player for the future. And that's the beauty of professional wrestling, is that you get as popular and as loved as CM Punk is, and he's done so much for the business, but then there has to come a point in time where you have to give back and you have to start elevating the next guys that are going to continue the business going forward. And I think you see that in AEW. You see a lot of the younger talent that gets utilized and gets opportunities to have their spotlight. Whereas in WWE, like, we're watching the Royal Rumble, and I think my daughter asked me, like, who are you going for in the men's Rumble? And I was like, it doesn't matter. There's like a bunch of like nobodies, like, cause they don't give anybody the chance to elevate. So it was really like lackluster. And then of course when Brock Lesnar came out, we all knew he was going to win it. Like even my dad, who doesn't watch it regularly, he's like, Brock Lesnar's going to win this thing. Like it was a no-brainer because everybody else is just a nothing. And that's just a failure on WWE's structure and their creative and all that. But AEW, you don't have that problem. Like right now, they don't have Kenny Omega, who's out with injury. But it's kind of like the days of the Attitude Era, where it doesn't matter because you can plug in another guy who's ready for that spot, and they don't lose a beat and they keep going. Like it happened when Stone Cold Steve Austin went out. It's like, oh man, who's going to carry the company? Oh, cool. The Rock's right here. Triple H is right here. Mick Foley's right here. All these other guys are ready for that position, and other guys got opportunities because of it. So that's what it feels like. So even though AEW doesn't have Kenny Omega, one of the best stars that they have in that company, they have somebody else filling that role right now, or anybody else really, because everybody there gets an opportunity. Has everything worked perfectly? No, but at least they're getting those opportunities, and that's why I love AEWs, because there's something happening on that freaking show every single week in every segment, as opposed to WWE, where it's like they promote the same people over and over. They don't give the newer people opportunities, and when they do, they squash them real quick. Like, for example, like Big E was WWE champion for however many months, and he lost it, and now he's back to just being a guy on the show. Like, that's just the way it is. Like, as opposed to like someone in AEW, like Darby Allin has lost plenty of times, but they give that guy opportunities to continue to rise up and be a player in that roster. So you don't feel like he's just a guy. He's just, you know, they've legitimized him. They've legitimized a lot of these guys working their way up. So right now, AEW has all of my trust as far as watching them as a product and me caring and giving a damn about everything that happens on there. Wins and losses, yeah, like they matter, but also like it depends on the situation. And in AEW, they're doing everything the right way right now. I think the only thing right now they're really kind of dropping the ball with Hangman Page as a champion, especially with who he's feuding with. But at least they're giving Hangman the opportunity to be the champion, see what he can do. But I'm waiting, you know, they're still a young company as well, but I'm waiting for the day that they're going to give MJF or CM Punk a run at this thing, because I think that's the next time that they should have like a rematch, is whenever it's for that championship, and whether it's on CM Punk or whether MJF has the belt and CM Punk has a one final shot at glory and gets to be champion once again. But I think that's the next time that they should feud, is whenever one of them has that championship belt. I don't think they should fight again. Let MJF hover over it. Let him brag about it for so long that he beat CM Punk not only once but twice, because that match actually ended earlier in their bout, but there was some interference and MJF using a piece of tape to choke out CM Punk. Referee caught it, restarted the match, but he actually pinned him or choked him out twice. Choked him out once and then pinned him the second time. So he beat him twice in his hometown. So let MJF brag about all that for months and months and months, and let Punk just rebuild, because, you know, he loses, no big deal. It's his first loss in AEW, but doesn't matter. He's established. He's untouchable. The crowd just loves him to death. Like, his status isn't hurt. Like, he's fine. For MJF, like, that's a good win for him, because now it just elevates him even more, and it just makes another star. He's already been a star, but it just makes him an even bigger star. So, yeah, that's what's going on right now in AEW. They're going to come here to San Antonio in March for the first time ever. I can't wait to go see that. Get some tickets soon enough. So, yeah, wrestling's good for me right now, but WWE, I'm retired. I'm out of retirement, but it's just in the background. I just want to see what they do for Mania. The least excited I've ever been for a WrestleMania in history, and it's in Texas this year. Like, you figured I would try to go up there. I got my best friend that lives up there, and we're both just like whatever on it. Like, we rather plan to go to AEW's big event in May, which is Double or Nothing, which, if everything works out the way it should, it'll be in Vegas, and that'd be something to go do. Like, have a fun weekend in Vegas and then go check out AEW pay-per-view at Caesar's Palace, I think is where they're going to have it, or the MGM Grand. So we'd rather plan for that than go to WrestleMania, which WrestleMania should be the end-all, be-all. Even though we've gone to a WrestleMania together, still, like, that should be the show of all shows to go to, and now it's just like, it's there. Whatever. But that's the state WWE's in, and, you know, we'll see what happens with Ronda Rousey and Becky Lynch and Charlotte and, I don't know, whatever road they take. But that's the planned matchup. Rousey versus Charlotte at Mania. That does nothing for me. I want to see what Becky Lynch is going to do for Mania. Maybe Bayley will return. I don't know when she's going to come back. I like to see them go at it. That may be about it. Nothing else. Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, same old shit. WWE title picture, Bobby Lashley. It's either going to be Bobby Lashley, Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens. Same guys. I mean, I gave up on Kevin Owens a long time ago. I love him, but they've just killed his character so many times as far as, like, having a legitimate run, that he's just a guy that's there now. It sucks because he's a great talker, he's a great wrestler, but I don't care about him anymore whether he wins the belt or not. I used to really pull for him, but now it's just whatever. And WWE doesn't have anyone on the roster that's up and coming that I can root for. And why would I? Because we've seen what they do to everybody that's on the up and coming. Big E, you know, whoever. And they squander all of it. I don't understand why. And they keep firing people too. Like, it's another thing that just leaves a bad taste in your mouth. Like, how can you get invested in anybody because you don't know when they're going to let them go or when they're going to take them off TV, or they'll just drop stuff out of nowhere. It's hard to root and get behind that. But some people can overcome it, like a Becky Lynch, even though she's been put in some shit storylines, but she makes it work. What's that saying? She makes chicken salad out of chicken shit. So that's about all I can get invested in. And, you know, Rousey's a nice attraction, but that could wear off really quickly. Especially if they're going to go this route with Charlotte for this Mania. If that's the case, if they're going to wait till next year to do Rousey and Lynch, I can go into retirement for a year and then come back in next January when they start building that up. But who knows? Because anything can happen. Nothing's set in stone. You can't plan that far ahead because anything can happen. Especially in wrestling. Anybody could get hurt or whatever. You got to strike while the iron's hot. Like, why not pull it this year? Ugh, whatever. Anyways, that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you guys for tuning in. Really appreciate it. As I mentioned, the Super Bowl 56 preview show is going to be coming later this week from the SM Football Marks. Me and Abraham Trevino We'll give you all the details and all the storylines leading into that game. And then, of course, we'll make our predictions. Also, a lot of crazy NFL news happening, including some stuff with freaking Deflategate. Like, that shit is back in the news, and I'll talk about that on the show with Abe. But just a lot of stuff going on. NFL's just, like, become this year-round cycle of stories. There's always something going on, so it's never quiet on that front. And then next week, while I'm on vacation, I will be recording my Season 3 premiere of 90s Films Turns 30 series. Season 3 is going to kick off with Wayne's World, and I got locked in a special guest for that episode. I'm so excited to record it. I'm actually so excited to revisit the movie. I've seen it over and over throughout many, many years, but now's the time when I can really lock in and get my notes ready for the episode. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Look for that next week. And then, of course, we're marching towards the Batman. It's going to be here before you know it, so I cannot wait. It's probably my most anticipated of the year. So, yeah, a lot of good stuff coming up. But thank you guys for tuning in. You can catch this podcast on Spotify. Search Palace Off the Top Rope. Hit that follow button. I would greatly appreciate it. I do share this link through all my social media pages on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and sometimes TikTok through Podbean.com. You can download the app, the Podbean app. You can listen through there. If you're an Apple person, subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Leave me that 5-star review. I would greatly appreciate it. Leave me any constructive criticism, whether it be good or bad. I'm here for it all. And, of course, I'm on Amazon Podcasts, iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcasts. You can even listen on Facebook. They have a tab now. If you're on Facebook Mobile, which I'm sure a lot of people are, my shows show up there just on your phone. You don't have to click on a link or go through Podbean or Apple or whatever. You can listen straight through Facebook there. Like, my podcasts are just available for you to listen. So if you're interested, take a listen. I appreciate it. I'm approaching 6,000 in total, like, downloads of the show, like, overall. Like, that's incredible. Like, that's awesome, man. I didn't think I would get 10 people to listen to this show, and I've almost had over 6,000 downloads of the show. That's awesome. That warms my heart. I appreciate it. I'm going to continue to try to do great stuff on this thing. Bring more guests. I got to start poking at celebrities, try to get a celebrity interview and see what I can do for a podcast interview, even if it's just like a 5-minute thing or whatever. Don't know how that works. I'm going to have to try my luck. But I gotta do things to try to make this grow. And that's the whole point, right? You want to get better. Don't be satisfied. You're never a finished product, but just continue to get better and grow. But anyways, guys, thanks for tuning in today, and look out for those shows later on in the week for Super Bowl, and then next week with Wayne's World on 90s Films Turn 30. Be on the lookout for all that. But until then, take care, and God bless you.